Good morning, spiritual companions. We are reading the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, continuing chapter 8, God-Intoxicated State, on page 351. Sunday, October 26th, 1884. It was afternoon, and many devotees were present in the Master's room. Among them were Manu Mohan, Mahimacharan, and M. They were joined later by Ishan and Hazra. A devotee: Sir, we hear that you see God. If you do, please show him to us. Master: everything depends on God's will. What can a man do? While chanting God's name, sometimes tears flow, and at other times the eyes remain dry. While meditating on God, some days I feel a great deal of inner awakening, and some days I feel nothing. A man must work. Only then can he see God. One day, in an exalted mood, I had a vision of the Halard Pukur. I saw a low-caste villager drawing water after pushing aside the green scum. Now and then, he took up the water in the palm of his hand and examined it. In that vision, it was revealed to me that the water cannot be seen without pushing aside the green scum that covers it. That is to say, one cannot develop love of God or obtain the vision of Him without work. Work means meditation, worship, and the like. The chanting of God's name and glories is work too. You may also include charity, sacrifice, and so on. Mahimacharan: that is true, sir. Work is certainly necessary. One must labor hard. Only then does one succeed. There is so much to read. The scriptures are endless. Master to Mahimacharan: how much of the scriptures can you read? What will you gain by mere reasoning? Try to realize God before anything else. Have faith in the Guru's words and work. If you have no Guru, then pray to God with a longing heart. He will let you know what He is like. What will you learn of God from books? As long as you are at a distance from the marketplace, you hear only an indistinct roar. But it is quite different when you are actually there. Then you hear and see everything distinctly. You hear people saying, "Here are your potatoes. Take them and give me the money." From a distance, you hear only the rumbling noise of the ocean. Go near it, and you will see many boats sailing about, birds flying, and waves rolling. One cannot get true feeling about God from the study of books. This feeling is something very different from book learning. Books, the scriptures, and science appear as mere dirt and straw after the realization of God. Mahimacharan: by what kind of work can one realize God? Master: it is not that God can be realized by this work and not by that. The vision of God depends on His grace. Still, a man must work a little with longing for God in his heart. If he has longing, he will receive God's grace. To attain God, a man must have certain favorable conditions: the company of holy men, discrimination, and the blessings of a real teacher. Perhaps his elder brother takes the responsibility for the family. Perhaps his wife has spiritual qualities and is very virtuous. Perhaps he is not married at all or entangled in worldly life. He succeeds when conditions like these are fulfilled. You should renounce mentally. Live the life of a householder in a spirit of detachment. Where will you go away from the world? Live in the world like a cast-off leaf in a gale. Such a leaf is sometimes blown inside a house and sometimes to a rubbish heap. The leaf goes wherever the wind blows it, sometimes to a good place, and sometimes to a bad. Now God has put you in the world. That is good. Stay here. Again, when he lifts you from here and puts you in a better place, there will be time enough to think about what to do then. God has put you in the world. What can you do about it? Resign everything to him. Surrender yourself at his feet. Then there will be no more confusion. Then you will realize that it is God who does everything. All depends on the will of Rama. A devotee asks, "What is the story about the will of Rama?" Master, in a certain village there lived a weaver. He was a very pious soul. Everyone trusted him and loved him. He used to sell his goods in the marketplace. When a customer asked him the price of a piece of cloth, the weaver would say, "By the will of Rama, the price of the yarn is 1 rupee, and the labor 4 annas. By the will of Rama, the profit is 2 annas. The price of the cloth, by the will of Rama, is 1 rupee and 6 annas." Such was the people's faith in the weaver that the customer would pay at once the price and take the cloth. The weaver was a real devotee of God. After finishing his supper in the evening, he would spend long hours in the worship hall meditating on God and chanting his name and glories. Now, late one night, the weaver could not get to sleep. He was sitting in the worship hall, smoking now and then, when a band of robbers happened to pass that way. They wanted a man to carry their goods and said to the weaver, "Come with us." So saying, they led him off by the hand. After committing a robbery in a house, they put a load of things on the weaver's head, commanding him to carry them. Suddenly the police arrived and the robbers ran away. But the weaver, with his load, was arrested. He was kept in the lockup for the night. Next day he was brought before the magistrate for trial. The villagers learned what happened and came to court. They said to the magistrate, "Your Honor, this man could never commit a robbery." Thereupon the magistrate asked the weaver to make his statement. The weaver said, "Your Honor, by the will of Rama, I finished my meal at night. Then, by the will of Rama, I was sitting in the worship hall. It was quite late at night, by the will of Rama. By the will of Rama, I had been thinking of God and chanting his name and glories, when, by the will of Rama, a band of robbers passed that way. By the will of Rama, they dragged me with them. By the will of Rama, they committed a robbery in a house. And by the will of Rama, they put a load on my head. Just then, by the will of Rama, the police arrived, and by the will of Rama, I was arrested. Then, by the will of Rama, the police kept me in the lockup for the night. And this morning, by the will of Rama, I have been brought before your honor." The magistrate realized that the weaver was a pious man and ordered his release. On his way home, the weaver said to his friends, "By the will of Rama, I have been released." Whether a man should be a householder or a monk depends on the will of Rama. Surrender everything to God and do your duties in the world. What else can you do? If the householder becomes a jivan mukta, then he can easily live in the world if he likes. A man who has attained knowledge does not differentiate between this place and that place. All places are the same to him. He who thinks of that place also thinks of this place. When I first met Keshab at Jayagopal's garden house, I remarked, "He is the only one who has dropped his tail." At this, people laughed. Keshab said to them, "Don't laugh. There must be some meaning in his words. Let us ask him." Thereupon I said to Keshab, "The tadpole so long as it has not dropped its tail, lives only in the water. It cannot move about on dry land. But as soon as it drops its tail, it hops out on the bank. Then it can live both on land and in water. Likewise, as long as a man has not dropped his tail of ignorance, he can live only in the water of the world. But when he drops his tail, that is to say, when he attains the knowledge of God, then he can roam about as a free soul or live as a householder if he likes. Mahimacharan and the other devotees remained absorbed, listening to the Master's words. Master, once I visited Devendranath Tagore, the father of Rabindranath Tagore, with Mathur Babu. I had said to Mathur, I have heard that Devendra Tagore thinks of God. I should like to see him. All right, said Mathur, I will take you to him. We were fellow students in the Hindu college, and I am very friendly with him. We went to Devendra's house. Mathur and Devendra had not seen each other for a long time. Devendra said to Mathur, You have changed a little. You have grown fat around the stomach. Mathur said, referring to me, He has come to see you. He is always mad about God. I wanted to see Devendra's physical marks and said to him, Let me see your body. He pulled up his shirt, and I found that he had very fair skin, tinted red. His hair had not yet turned gray. At the outset, I noticed a little vanity in Devendra, and isn't that natural? He had such wealth, such scholarship, such name and fame. Noticing that streak of vanity, I asked Mathur, Well, is vanity the outcome of knowledge or ignorance? Can a knower of Brahman have such a feeling as, I am a scholar, I am a jnani, I am rich? While I was talking to Devendra, I suddenly got into that state of mind in which I can see through a man. I was convulsed with laughter inside. In that state, I regard scholars and the book learned as mere straw. If I see that a scholar has no discrimination and renunciation, I regard him as worthless straw. I see that he is like a vulture, which soars high, but fixes its look on a charnel pit down below. I found that Devendra had combined both yoga and boga in his life. He had a number of children, all young. The family physician was there. Thus, you see, though he was a jnani, yet he was preoccupied with worldly life. I said to him, I have heard that you live in the world and think of God, so I have come to see you. Please tell me something about God. He recited some texts from the Vedas. He said, This universe is like a chandelier, and each living being is a light in it. Once, while I was meditating in the Panchavati, I too had a vision like that. I found his words agreed with my vision, and I thought he must be a very great man. I asked him to explain his words. He said, God has created men to manifest his own glory. Otherwise, who would know this universe? Everything becomes dark without the lights in the chandelier. One cannot even see the chandelier itself. We talked a long time. Devendra was pleased and said to me, You must come to our Brahmo Samaj festival. That, I said, depends on God's will. You can see my state of mind. There's no knowing when God will put me into a particular state. Devendra insisted, No, you must come, but put on your cloth and wear a shawl over your body. Someone might say something unkind about your untidiness, and that would hurt me. No, I replied, I cannot promise that. I cannot be a babu. Devendra and Mathur laughed. The very next day, Mathur received a letter from Devendra forbidding me to go to the festival. He wrote that it would be ungentlemanly of me not to cover my body with a shawl. All laugh. There is another big man, Captain. Though the man of the world, he is a great lover of God. To Mahima, talk to him sometime. He knows the Vedas, Vedanta, the Gita, and other scriptures by heart. You will find that out when you talk to him. Captain's wife said to me, he doesn't enjoy worldly life. That is why he once said he would renounce the world. True, every now and then he expresses that desire. Captain was born in a family of devotees. His father was a soldier. I have heard that on the battlefield he would worship Shiva with one hand and hold a naked sword in the other. Captain is a strong upholder of orthodox conventions. Because of my visiting Keshab Chandra Sen, he stopped coming here for a month. He said to me that Keshab had violated the social conventions. He dined with the English, had married his daughter into another caste, and had lost his own caste. I said to Captain, what do I care for such things? Keshab chants the name of God, so I go to him to hear about God. I eat only the plum. What do I care about the thorns? But Captain remained stubborn. He said to me, why do you see Keshab? I answered him rather sharply, but I don't go to him for money. I go there to hear the name of God. And how is it that you visit the Viceroy's house? He is a Melecha. How can you be in his company? That silenced him a little. But he is a great devotee. At the time of worship, he performs a rati with camphor. When he recites hymns, he becomes a totally different person. He remains absorbed. To Mahima, you explain Om with reference to A, U, and M only. Mahima, A, U, and M mean creation, preservation, and destruction. Master, but I give the illustration of the sound of a gong. Tom. The O is pronounced as awe in dawn. Tom. It is the merging of the Leela in the Nitya. The gross, the subtle, and the causal merge in the great cause. Waking, dream, and deep sleep merge in Turiya. The striking of the gong is like the falling of a great weight into a big ocean. Waves begin to rise. The relative rises from the absolute. The causal, subtle, and gross bodies appear out of the great cause. From Turiya emerge the states of deep sleep, dream, and waking. These waves arising from the great ocean merge again in the great ocean. From the absolute to the relative, and from the relative to the absolute. Therefore, I give the illustration of the gong sound. Tom. I have clearly perceived all these things. It has been revealed to me that there exists an ocean of consciousness without limit. From it come all things of the relative plane, and in it they merge again. Mahima, those to whom such things were revealed did not write the scriptures. They were wrapped in their own experiences. When would they write? One needs a somewhat calculating mind to write. Others learned these things from the seers and wrote the books. End of that day. End of today's reading.